You're listening to the SCV Connected podcast with my mom, Kelly O'Keefe.
Welcome to SCV Connected. SCV Connected is a brand new podcast with a mission to connect all of us who call Santa Clarita home, featuring small and local businesses while celebrating those doing meaningful and impactful work. SCV Connected is an opportunity to discover resources, people, and incredible stories right here in our backyard. I'm Kelly O'Keefe, Santa Clarita local for most of my life. I'm a wife and a mom to two young girls with a deep curiosity for those unfiltered and untold stories all around us. Stories that help us understand and connect with each other on a deeper level, creating a true sense of belonging. Connection, unity, and togetherness. We all long for it. SCV Connected is dedicated to making it happen, one story at a time.
You're listening to the SCV Connected podcast in 30 minutes or less with your host, Kelly O'Keefe. My interview today with Brandi Elizabeth was just so incredibly inspiring. She's not only just a singer, songwriter, and social media influencer, she also has such heart and such grit in the story you're about to hear. Her and her husband, they both own a company called The Williams Creative, and together their goal is just to inspire people to stand in their truths. She's gone through quite a bit in the 24 years of her life, and you'll get to really feel how important Jesus and her family are to her story. She's overcome so much. She's really made it her life goal to advocate for living an honest lifestyle and defending any type of shame-filled mentality. So please welcome Brandi Elizabeth. I'll start from the beginning. So I just had this vision of probably who you were, singer, songwriter, social media influencer. You grew up in a rooted Christian home. You create this dang, she has it all together. What could be her struggle? Nothing, And then you dropped a little nugget during big church one day. So you just had mentioned that you had struggled with anxiety and depression, and that was kind of the overarching series topic at church. And I just never knew, you don't ever know what people are walking through. So walk me through a little bit about that. And is that maybe the reason for your platform and wanting people to step into who they really are?
Yeah, 100%. My journey to get to where I am now has been a pretty interesting one, honestly. I grew up in the South, which was difficult. My parents were both born and raised in California. My dad worked for Def Jam Records, and so that's why we moved to Georgia, where I was there from 3 to 16.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was definitely an interesting time. I have always struggled with being likable with what I do as a singer, as a vocalist. It's half the job is you have your voice, but also people have to love you. And so
wow. Yeah.
Just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, who I was, because of what my dad did for a living. I was always just in the music scene. And I loved it 100%, but I didn't have the voice of a pop star. And also I didn't have the training that goes into all of that. Being told okay, this is what you need to look like. This is what you need to sound like. And I just would always tell my parents, I don't want to be in a box. I don't want anybody to put me in a box. And so I think the struggle was always trying to be the world's idea of successful, or just choosing a career like being a singer. Basically, you're told, well, what's your plan B?
Yeah.
Unrealistic.
Right.
That was so tough.
Right.
I wasn't super great in school. I did enough to get by. So I think I have really been on a journey in finding myself. And a huge part of my story is that I experienced sexual abuse very young.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Very young, at 5 years old.
Wow.
And it went on for about a year. And I didn't tell anybody till I was 18. Some people don't realize how much it strips from you. I always felt like something was wrong with me, something was off. There's different facets to sexual abuse. Obviously, there are different types as well. And
Right.
I think for me, I grew up culture where, like, if you're being raped, that is not okay.
Right.
But nobody
Okay.
talks about if you're being molested. So I thought, oh, maybe nothing is wrong. Like, it felt uncomfortable, obviously, but I wasn't being hurt. So it just was a weird middle ground. And so
Right. That's
that,
true.
yeah, for so long, I was just like searching for who I was. My parents were just wonderful enough to not force religion on us, but to encourage us to engage in a relationship with Jesus. And so that was my saving grace, honestly. Like,
Wow.
there were multiple times. I mean, I know I spoke about my being in the hospital, but that was the first time I was hospitalized, not the first time that I attempted suicide, though. After I had like said what happened to me, then I was going through so many different things emotionally, and I had a mentor at the time, and she kind of told me, like, this, what you went through was horrific. I just need you to know that your relationship with God it's 50-50. Like, he will meet you right where you're at,
That's
but
so true.
healing has to be desired and pursued. And the
Right.
lifestyle that I was living after graduating from high school just was extremely unhealthy and toxic for me. And I had 2 more extremely negative sexual encounters. But I was just triggered. And so after that conversation I had with her, I just was like, I can't do it. And I got overwhelmed. And I remember going home, destroying my room,
Oh
and
my gosh.
like, this is it. Like, I can't continue. I can't move forward. And I like
Yeah,
felt,
because your body was like holding on to the trauma, even though you like maybe mentally or
yeah, mentally you try to be somewhere else, but it always pulls you back. And also, like, who I was as a person, like, I could never be physical in like a healthy type of way. So, like, I didn't hug people. I didn't Physical affection wasn't a thing that was coming from me. But yeah, I got to a place, and I think I was 19 at that time.
wow.
I was kind of just done, but it was always my relationship with Jesus that was that little whisper, and that's what I tell people that I'm so beyond grateful for, is that little whisper, because you physically, as a human being, you get to a place where you can't go further. So I destroyed everything in my room. I got a bottle of pills. I was ready to go,
Oh my gosh.
just like screaming, and nobody was home. I had a moment where I just felt like so empty, so helpless, because that was kind of like my final cry
Yeah.
of, like, I need to know that you're here. I need to know that there's something better for me to move forward.
So was that really the start of like, okay, it's time to work through?
Yeah, I had been like, I would go to real life with my family, and I had sung for the kids service, but I wasn't like heavily invested there or anything. And I was working this job every single day. I would pray the same prayer: God, I don't know what to do next. I just need an opportunity to get to know you and to love you with the gifts that you've given me. I try my best to encourage people to know that more than anything, your heart is what matters. And God sees and he knows your heart. And if you are actively pursuing him, he will meet you there in that space. It might not look like what you thought it was going to look like,
Right.
but he will meet you there. And I, for a while, was telling people, like, just try him. Like, just try him,
Yeah.
just test it out. I'm not
Right.
here to convince you,
Right.
just
Right.
test it out. And I think that's been the theme of kind of who I am and who I've become, is just like, Jesus means so much to me because I have developed a relationship with him by my own will. And, I speak about him because I love him and I know how good he is. It's crazy because I've been on both sides. Like, I am a worship leader, but I have been heavily invested in like the secular music industry.
Okay.
I started, so when we first moved to California, I had my first ever audition for anything, and it was the
Okay.
TV show The Voice. And
Wow.
I, got a call back, and the whole thing went through it, and then didn't end up
Dang.
got caught before being on the show. And so I was like, oh well, that sucked, but you kind of just, you grow up and it's like whatever. And so I actually got the opportunity to do background vocals on the show and just be a background, like be a background singer, and also um just perform in different performances with different artists that were on the show.
That's
And
so cool to like get your feet wet too, of like
yeah.
seeing like
Mhm.
the lay of the land.
Yes. And so then I was asked by a producer of the show if I would be a contestant.
So
And when that
cool.
happens, it's a different world because you don't have to go through like the cattle call audition. You get to just do the regular.
That's
what
so cool.
but so I did it, and this was beginning of 2019. I
Wow.
auditioned, everything went so well, and it was like, you're wonderful, we love you. And I had just started dating my now husband, uh,
Oh, congrats.
and I was leaving because you have to go and you stay, like, they put you in a hotel, everything. I had signed my contract, the whole nine. And then a couple days before I was supposed to leave, I got a phone call from the casting director, and she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what's going on, but your contract is getting denied
Oh, shoot.
because so my mom worked on the show, and
Okay.
so did my aunt. She worked on the show as a choreographer. And she still does. But at the time, all they could tell me was that they couldn't let the contract go through.
Dang.
So for me, that left me basically dead. Because you spend your whole life again trying to reach this standard of
And
success.
it's so close. Like it
So
was right there.
so
Oh.
close. And I felt like, okay, obviously this is what God wants me to do. I'm going to have a platform.
Yeah.
I had been coordinating worship in student ministry at that time, and I
Mhm.
stepped away from doing that. I quit my other job, all to do this show. And
Dang.
so when that happened, I remember telling Jake, and we dated, I think we were maybe in month 3, and I was like, you are going to see me like nobody has ever seen me before.
Mm,
And I'm
dang.
so sorry because I have nothing to give you
Wow.
at all. And I think it was like, I would literally go to his house and just like lay in the bed and cry
Stop.
for days because I
Dang.
was empty. And so,
Right.
like, we were just talking about like mental practices.
Hmm.
So people think that, you have a relationship with Jesus and it's like, oh, I know him, and you get fired up for a moment,
Right.
and then you get lazy, and
Hmm.
it's like, oh no, I still love God. I still, but things change and you start to put your identity in other places. And that's what I was doing. I put my identity in my career and in this show. And when it
And
was,
sometimes you don't even know it. You're
you
until
know,
it's handed over and you're like,
not there, and you're like,
yeah.
I have nothing. I have
Yeah.
nothing. So that experience pushed me into a different wave of a different season. You know what
Mm.
I mean? But I didn't sing for 6 months. Fast forward, it was 2019 was an interesting year, very hard for me, but it was still pre-COVID, so it's kind of easy to brush it under the rug. And I was going out with friends, still trying my best to do life, but I was completely disconnected from the church, didn't go, um,
Hmm.
just wouldn't go. I had it was like my first time not singing for like Christmas and forever.
Dang.
The whole thing, yeah. So, so then we get to
That's
2020.
crazy. Yeah. So then what happened? 2020 comes along.
2020
And I don't know, but from the outside, it seems like 2020 was like you huddled down and you're like, okay, we're going to like, what's the comeback story? Like,
I got engaged in November. Or was it October? Ooh, one of
of
those.
2019 or 20?
Yeah, of 2019.
Okay.
So that was exciting, and
Aw.
I was like, oh my gosh, gotta plan a wedding.
Right.
You just kind of fall into that. You fall
Okay.
into that. I had gone back and forth between wanting to get plugged back in at real life, but it's hard for me because I had also like endured hurt there, and I just didn't trust.
Because it's a church made of people who are broken. So it's going to happen no matter where.
And, we had a season at Real Life for the worship leaders where basically we were treated like we were working in the secular industry.
Dang.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
pretty interesting. And so yeah, I didn't trust anything, but I just was like, I need to sing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like such a huge part of who I am. So I reached back out to Kelly, and so I was doing things here and there, but mainly focusing on my wedding and all that stuff. And then COVID hits.
Dang.
Not
Oh
only
my gosh.
COVID hit, but I'm asked to do The Voice again.
What?
Again, yes.
No.
And this time,
You're like, how dare you?
yeah,
First of all.
we laughed, honestly. we sat and we laughed. I laughed with my parents, but then my dad's like, well, why not? So
Yeah.
here we go again. And this time I'm only talking with the casting director. So it was a more clean situation. And
Okay.
I did it. And of course, like I had no doubts of success. But we got to the same point, and she's like, I'm so sorry. Like I did everything that I could, because my mom didn't work on the show anymore. So
okay.
we like, okay, cool. This is, right.
Yeah. If that was the problem last time, we're good now. Like.
And my aunt who works on the show, she's not my blood aunt, but we are our families are very close. Then I did receive the information of why my contract didn't go through, because of the relationship that I had, and I had already performed on the show multiple times.
Okay.
So what I was told this last time was just like, we would be putting the show's credibility at stake, because once you go through casting, they rank you as far as how successful they think you're going to be. And out of my group, it was like 200 people. And
dang.
I was number 3 on that list. Yeah.
That's awesome.
She told me that, and I was like,
yeah.
But it's like you have to find the positive within a situation that you feel is negative.
Right.
But I felt like God did that for me. Like it's like, that's not your path, but I don't want you to think that I didn't create you to do this.
So now where did YouTube come into this? Because I saw some YouTube videos about like Brandi's trying, and then like new stuff, new adventures, you were doing candy.
Yes, I'm the pickiest eater that most people know. Like if I'm in life, I'm probably top of the list as far as eaters go. So the Brandi tries things was very much like, oh, I'm gonna step outside my comfort zone. But YouTube started because of my husband. He is just an amazing video producer, and just so creative and genius. And we became friends doing that stuff. I would write poems, and we would make videos for the poems.
How fun!
Stuff like that. It's really like childish and
no, but how fun and creative, and I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
nice.
But he is phenomenal and so there are no words that I can give to explain his mind.
Wow.
But we thought like, oh, it would be a good idea to start creating these music videos. And every concept we've both come up with, we've put it together ourselves.
That
And
is so cool
yeah,
because like you're created and born to be here in a time such as now. Because back
yeah,
then, like you couldn't, no, you had to like wait on the approval of other people to
I
accept.
know, yeah.
And now you're like, I don't need your
Now
work,
you get
like
to do
you to
your own thing.
say yes to me. I can just put it out there. Like that's what I love about podcasting. Like I didn't go to school for journalism or anything
Yeah.
like that, but I want to have a conversation and I can do it now.
Both my parents, like for my
Really?
whole life, they're like,
Wow.
please do not give up on your dream. Please do not stop singing. Like it's what you were
Yeah.
born to do, what you were created to do. And when you get that from the people who literally brought you into this world,
Right.
it's eventually you're going to trust it. Eventually you're
Yeah.
going to believe what they're saying.
No, but you're such an inspiration, so encouraging to so many people. And I love your story and that it's not perfect. It's not this like golden road, but
Really
that
messy.
makes, yeah, no, but I think you'll bring more people along on the journey with you because everyone's messy. And
Yeah.
especially with right now where we're at in life with like depression and anxiety and just grief and past hurts, like it's
Yeah.
nice to know like how relatable you are in that space.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you for opening up and being vulnerable and
Yes,
sharing and
of course. I think this is the kind of stuff that changes the world, honestly.
oh, it
So
does.
I feel like people always, you tell your story and then they apologize, like, oh my gosh, you don't have to share that. You don't. And it's like, no, I want to because I know that there's somebody else that experienced something similar and
Mhm.
maybe they don't feel like it's okay to talk about it, like I did for so many years. I
Right.
spent so long trying to find out who I was, figure out who I was when if somebody just told me like sat me down and said, "Hey, tell me what's going on in your life. Just tell me everything." You know,
Right.
it changes so much. I have like a saying that like Jesus lives in the pause.
Mhm.
He lives in the moments where you stop and you think. He lives in the moments where you maybe react in a way that is completely unexpected. It's like you can get in a car accident, somebody cuts you off, you get in a car accident, you get out the car. They already have an expectation for you to be upset.
Right.
When they walk towards you and you're like, "Hey, are you okay? That was intense. Are you okay?" There is a moment where Jesus exists in that maybe you don't notice it, but that split second where they think, "Oh, like they're not angry."
Right.
Like it doesn't seem like Jesus, it doesn't scream Jesus, but he's there.
Right.
Because that's what makes all the difference, or somebody telling you something that they did or that they're ashamed about and you're like, "Hey, that's okay and thank you for telling me that."
Right.
You're like, "What?"
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. When your reaction, it's not your fleshly reaction, it's like a Jesus reaction and you're like, I could have never done that on my own. Normally I'd be angry.
yeah.
Dang. Yeah, so what would you say to someone if they did hear our interview today or saw your story somewhere and they were like, that sounds like me. Like that sounds like the hurt I'm going through. Like, would you encourage them to get help or speak to a mentor or like,
Yes, 100%. A lot of my help did come from counseling and
okay.
therapy. And I think not keeping your feelings bottled up is
Mhm.
one of the most important things, and understanding that the healing is for you. It's not for them. It's not for the person that hurt you.
Okay.
It is for you and you deserve it. Like you deserve to be able to live your life freely, to be able to wake up in the morning and be okay. A lot of times
Right.
we think that we're not worth it, but you are. You're 100% worth it. and owning your truth, owning your story is going to have such an impact on people you don't even know. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
having having a moment where you either you could be watching something on TV or listening to a podcast or whatever you're doing. As soon as you hear somebody say something that you can relate to, there's a moment of like, wow, it's not just me, you know?
Right.
And if everybody like embraced doing that, the world would be a different place.
For
Honestly,
sure.
it would be.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, if anybody were to
That's
listen
awesome.
to this,
No, that's such good stuff. I
yeah,
love it. I love it. And that's like the inspiration behind the podcast is like, even if like one person hears one interview and is like, oh, dang, me too. I'm not alone. And they live in my community. It's not like someone across the globe. It's right here. My interview today with Brandi Elizabeth was just so awe-inspiring. You think you know someone from social media, from seeing them on stage, and I was just completely blown away at the level of depth that we got into with her today. There was a couple moments where I'm just like, me too, girl, me too. In the heart of us, we each have this soul, and we're so much more alike than we are different. It's not until we get to the heart of each other that we start to hear those similarities. And I just feel like my interview today just checked off all the buckets for the reason why I am doing the SCV Connected podcast to begin with. She's so beautiful. There's so much that she has to offer throughout our conversation. No matter what your spiritual beliefs are today, I hope that you walk away with just knowing the heart of your neighbor. I hope you feel inspired to root her on and encourage her in her journey. And I hope you feel encouraged to sit down and to listen to whoever it is that's on your heart today. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. Be sure to check out the links below to follow along with Brandi on her road to success. You can find her on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. Again, those links are below. And give our friend Brandi some social media love. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification.